Murray Verrill. Murray's house was open a few years ago for Sustainable House Day, and it's a true gem, and there are a lot of people really appreciating what he's done inside the house, but in actual fact he has a fantastic food garden outside. So Murray, tell us a little bit about what you're growing here.
Well, this is basically our garden plot straight out of the door, back door. So this is our garden. Pick dinner every night, just about. Lots of picking greens. There's carrots. There's Italian parsleys, spinaches, rainbow shards, parsley, lettuces. The celery just keeps giving and giving and giving. It's a really good value. And I think lots of people tend to pick it and take it into their garden, whereas you should trim it all the time. We just trim our veggies and take little bits in as we need them, so you've always got access to fresh veggies. So instead of ripping up the whole celery, just grab what you need off the outside. Instead of ripping up the whole spinach, just pick the leaves that you need. Same with all the parsleys. We've got a bit of a bed over here where we sort of start our seedlings, or we grow where we don't want all the bugs and everything to get in them. We've got a bit of spinach and beetroots and lettuce and rocket, lots of rocket. And if you're letting things go to seed, what tends to happen is you don't have to plant anything, because it just keeps coming up from the garden, and you pull out the ones you don't want. The carrots we let self-seed. There's an odd one. So yeah, it's basically this is just what supplies our kitchen garden. The rest of it's pretty much fruit and nuts, and we do plant edibles like the veggies and that around them. But once you get a canopy established, it's a bit hard. So it's always important to have a nice sunny spot where you can just plant. But I don't think people realise the importance of letting things go to seed. Even the beans you don't pick, next year you can just, or when they're finished, this time of year we can just pull the seeds out, put them straight into the ground again for the next crop, So we very rarely buy seeds, we rarely buy seedlings, but yeah, just try to keep it functioning on its own as much as possible. The dirt just has to be improved. I can't emphasise the importance of humus, and building up organic matter in your soil. I tend not to turn it. I'll pull weeds out and everything, but I tend not to turn it over and over and over all the time. I try to let the microbes in the soil establish a good biome, and then the veggies will just tap into that. So if you can just let the organic matter build up all the time, that's especially in the forest. Don't take organic matter away, always put it back into your garden, and allow that humus level to build up, basically. Incredibly important. Probably got about 600 square metres of block, I think, or 800 square metres of block, so there's probably about half of that is under fruit trees and nut trees. We could have, we were quite able to push this house down and built a bigger one, and taken up more of our block. It had no heritage overlay on it at that stage, but we really loved the little cottage, and the garden was more important to us than having a big house. And the little house is easy to look after, easy to heat, cool and maintain. So yeah, we spend more time in our garden. So as far as fruit trees go, it's always a battle in Bendigo, because you get -5 in winter and 45 plus in summer. So you've got to maintain little microclimates to try and avoid frost on frost sensitive ones. Try to establish a canopy to give you shade in summer, because the soil just turns to dust if it's exposed to the sun. Weeds are better than nothing, like bare soil. Don't ever have bare soil. If you can't get into a particular part, then let the weeds go crazy, and let it go fallow, because what it does is it brings all the worms up, creates a microbiome with all the matter in the soil. Yeah, again, and humus, just keep adding that soil, adding up. A lot of it we've put rocks around the edge to try and build up that layer of humus to try and make it survive a bit better in summer. But lots of citrus we've got at the moment. We've got it's just towards the end of winter. We're still picking mandarins and oranges, heaps of lemons, but everything's just about to come into flower. The avocado tree over there's only been in about 4 or 5 years. I've been told that they crop biannually, not annually. So last year it only had about half a dozen of it. The year before it had about 3 dozen. And this year it's covered in flowers. So hopefully this year will be a good year for the avocados. Things like that are really good value because you can just leave them hanging on the tree and just pick them as you need them. Same with all the citrus. You know, you don't have to go and pick the whole crop because it's ripe. You can just go and pick it as you need them. Just like the veggies, pick the bits you need, not the whole thing. Yeah, basically we've got lots of nectarines, peaches, avocados, olives, lemons, mulberries, mandarins, feijoas, pears. The grapevine all the way along the house here was original. We actually extended the house to that point because we didn't want to get rid of the grapevine, and then have restrung it all around the house. That gives us heaps of shade in summer, and in winter we cut it all back and we get all our winter sun in. So the importance of the interaction between your house and your garden is also really important. You can use your landscaping to block the sun out in summer, let it in winter by planting deciduous. Creating microclimates, as I said, is really important. And for me, a garden should be little nooks and crannies. It should be walking from like a room to a room to a room almost, and not being able to see from one end to the other is always a good thing because it leads you around the corner to see what's going on. Down the bottom we've got chooks, we've got bees. There was a couple of the big established trees here when we got a big almond tree and a big walnut tree, thankfully. Not that we ever see any nuts off that because the cockies up here just wipe them. But if we netted it we probably could, but yeah, I just let the cockies feed on those ones. But yeah, there's always something to pick in the garden. There's always something to eat that's fresh. And you can't get any fresher than that when you just walk out and pick it. So as far as your nutrient intake, most of the food you eat in the supermarket's been picked days and days, if not weeks ago, sometimes years ago, so you've really got to get fresh stuff. Crisis at the moment with food supply and food security, and the expense of that food. I mean, I just look at people and go, well, food's free, you just plant it, and if you've got a good garden instead of lawn, it's going to feed you. Like, I basically dig all this out every year and throw this onto the garden. A bit wet and soggy at the moment, but yeah, they fluff it all up. Everything that can't go onto the garden goes in here if the chooks are going to eat them first. Let it rot, let them eat it, and there you've got basically compost ready to go.
And eggs.
Native plum pine. Hasn't fruited yet. Apparently it's hard to grow, but it was about this big when I put it in, and it's done that so far. So probably about 10 to 15 kilos. A few years of putting this stuff on all the time, and look, so you can improve your soil just by adding stuff to it and letting the worms do their work, letting all the microbes do their work. I planted this, which is a banana passion fruit, and it went ballistic. That's the banana passion fruit. It's just about taking over our house. In summer, when the sun's rising there on our bedroom window, it's really bright, so this has been a good advantage for us. So it keeps it nice and dark. But it has these beautiful big long purple flowers on it, and none of them have come to fruit yet. It's only been in maybe 2 years, 3 years, and I had the grapevine growing up along the wires, and it got up onto the grapevine wire now, so it's just going crazy. Good value. 11,000 litres here. It's about 2.5, a bit over 2.5 each tank, and there's 4 of them. and that's basically fed off the house and the garage and the workshop around the corner. Yeah, so we've got no end of rainwater as long as it's raining. We did have it plumbed into the house, but I basically use that for all our watering and toilet laundry stuff now. So that's just less water you have to pay for. I can keep it locked away so you don't get any slugs, you don't get any snails or anything, and you just go and pick greens knowing that they're basically fresh and ready to use and throw them in. And the self-seeding things like the pak choi just keeps coming up, the rocket just keeps coming up. The carrots that you let go to seed just keep coming up. Celery just keeps coming up. You tend to have an abundance if you let things go through their cycle instead of picking them straight away, going, oh yeah, it's a good celery, and just picking the whole thing. Because then you've got to eat the whole thing as well, you know. So that's basically the philosophy we use.